There have been many insane moments in the Six Nations, but from start to finish, the entirety of the 2021 championship was pretty wild. From unlikely champions to games being postponed because of waffles, let's take a look at perhaps the strangest championship in the Six Nations history. From the off, the championship was always going to feel different, with all the countries involved in the Six Nations and lockdowns in early 2021. The games were played without crowds. There was an eerie feeling in an empty Principality and Twickenham Stadium in round 1, pumping fake fan noise through the TV to try and generate some atmosphere, which, to be honest, didn't really do it for me. It was just such an odd feeling watching the games alone in my flat, with no fans at the stadiums and no mates around me to shout abuse with through the TV. But the strangeness of the championship continued in day 1 with England v Scotland. There was a strange build-up in this game, as many people didn't know what to expect. England hadn't played amazing in 2020, but were the reigning Six Nations champions and had also won the Autumn Nations Cup in the previous November. Scotland were rebuilding in 2020 after a poor World Cup, and were looking to put a marker down in the first game of the championship. But this game wouldn't go down as a classic, with Scotland scoring an early penalty in the 6th minute, before scoring the only try of the game through England's favourite Scot. Who said that? Duhan van der Merwe, before England would pull it back with 2 penalties, making it 8-6 to the Scots at the half. Scotland scored a penalty early in the second half, and that's how the game ended. No more points were scored in the second half, and Scotland won at Twickenham. Which, you know, if you're a more recent rugby viewer, might not seem that weird to you, as Scotland has only lost once there since their drubbing in 2017. But before 2020, Scotland hadn't won at Twickenham since 1983. Not a single one of the players playing was born when that happened, and the Scotland head coach was only 9 years old at the time. Pretty insane moment for Scotland fans. Now, a minor strange thing that happened that year was Wales beating Ireland in their opening game, as they'd been pretty ropey since their new head coach Wayne Pefak had come in, only beating Italy and Georgia in 2020. But I think them beating Ireland at home as a one-off isn't anything insane, but I'm sure this won't grow into anything. But actually in round 2, we had an epic game involving Wales at Murrayfield. Is epic the right word to use there? Well, from my perspective it was pretty awful, but an awful game at Murrayfield doesn't really narrow it down. Everything was going Scotland's way at the start of that match, scoring 2 tries and a penalty to be 19-3 up, but some good play would let Wales in just before the half, leaving it 19-8 at the break. Everything was going dandy for Scotland, but Scotland would be hit with a triple whammy in the second half. First, a try by Liam Williams brought Wales back to within a score, before Sander Ferguson did this and got a red card. Then 2 minutes later, Wyn Jones would score for Wales to give them a 20-17 lead after coming from 16 points behind. But Scotland didn't stop and got back into the game with a 65th minute try, before a couple of minutes later, some random man on the wing, don't think anyone knows who this is, did some magic and gave Wales a 25-24 lead. But Scotland, at the end of the game, with the clock in the red, had managed to work the Welsh defence with Van der Merwe into space. But a massive tap tackle and a failed offload would seal the game for Wales. Damn, that's 2 wins for them in this championship that everyone had completely written them off for. Can't imagine this leading to anything at all. But an even stranger event would come to light later that week involving France. Due to COVID-19, all the teams stayed in bubbles and were exposed to rigorous testing throughout the campaign. In the lead up to the France v Scotland game for round 3, 12 French players were found to have caught COVID and 5 of the staff members too. They all had to be isolated and the France v Scotland game was postponed, but the strangest thing about this is that it was reported that the reason the outbreak occurred was because some French players broke their bubble to go out to get waffles after their win in Rome in round 1. Waffles! Come on guys, really? This actually led to some drama for when the game was eventually played the week after round 5, because the Premiership clubs demanded compensation from the SRU to release their players for the game, as it was outside the international window. They came to an agreement, but it was made even worse by the fact that 6 months earlier, Scotland had allowed their Exeter-based players to leave Scotland camp and play in the Champions Cup final without asking for any compensation. But it doesn't stop here. In round 3, Wales travelled to Twickenham to take on England, and after their loss to Scotland in round 1, England needed a win to keep any chance of championship hopes alive. But the first try of the game was marred with controversy, as England captain Owen Farrell had been given a warning, and while his team were in a huddle where he was informing them of this, the referee allowed Wales to take the penalty, and Dan Biggar kicked the ball to his teammate on the wing, who scored with little opposition from the England defence because, well, there wasn't really one there. Farrell wasn't happy, and Wales' second try wasn't much less controversial, as this strange man who nobody knows, I wonder what happened to him, attempts to catch a ball from a kick through, doesn't, and the ball bounces off his hand into his leg and Wales go in and score. Some say this is a knock on, others say it isn't, And honestly, it's hard to say. But these two moments marred the game in controversy. England did fight back, but they didn't have enough, and Wales won 40-24. Damn, that's 3 wins in the Triple Crown for Wales. Surely, they're not going to win the thing. The Scotland v Ireland game in the same round was another insane event, and some of the tries were hilarious. The first try was a bomb into the try zone, which took out 2 Scotland players and left the ball just lying there for Ireland to touchdown. But Scotland's response was absolutely insane. Look at this. How do you even describe the chaos happening here? And it gave Scotland the lead at the time. What the f is happening here? And this is also the game where Furlong lost his front row membership card. And to put the cherry on the cake, for Ireland's second try, referee Romain Poix decided he was going to be involved in the ruck too. But I guess it worked because he saw a grounding and awarded the try. This gave Ireland a 24-10 lead, but Scotland scored 2 tries to bring it back to a draw, only to bottle it and give away a penalty at the following restart, and Ireland won 27-24. Classic Scotland moment. Wales went on to beat Italy in round 4, which meant they had now won 4 games in this championship that they had been completely written off in, and had a chance at a Grand Slam in round 5 against France. And they nearly got it. They were ahead with seconds to go in a game that had Wales down to 13 men at one point with 2 yellow cards, and Paul Willemse getting a red, but that's pretty normal, so there was probably not much point mentioning it. But with 5 minutes to go, Wales were 10 points up. But with their 2 men in the bin, France scored to make it a squeaky end of the game. In the 79th minute, Wales were seeing out the clock, but they gave away a penalty for sealing off, which gave France a chance, and they took it, with Dulin scoring the winning try for France, taking the Grand Slam away from Wales and keeping their slim chance at a title open in the postponed game against Scotland, to be played the next week. I'm sure Dulin won't do anything to ruin the legacy of this winning try. The France v Scotland game was a pretty insane mess before it kicked off, with it being delayed and the fiasco around the Premiership-based players, and also Ryan Wilson being called up late and actually playing in a shirt with someone else's name on it. But the game was an absolute banger in its own right. Brilliant tries from all over the place, Penno accidentally scoring while trying to complain about an early tackle, and Chris Harris tackling the house down. But it's probably best known for its ending. Scotland found themselves with the clock in the red in France's 22, without starman Finn Russell, who was red carded for an illegal fend. We've been here before, right guys? So we were all expecting it when France stripped the ball and all Dulin had to do was kick the ball out for the game to be over. They weren't able to score enough points to win the championship, but hey, at least they'd win the game. Except he didn't kick it out, and Scotland won a penalty from the following ruck. In the following few minutes, Scotland were able to build an attack, and who else than Duhan van der Merwe got over the try line and won the game for Scotland. Their first win at the Stade de France since 1999. And Wales lifted the trophy of a championship they won seemingly entirely on vibes. They went back to being shit basically straight away after that. Weird. But there have been many weird moments throughout the championship's history, like that time every team won the championship in the same year, which you can learn all about in this video about 6 things you didn't know about the Six Nations right here. Thanks for watching.